Jinny reacts.
Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing the part 1 of my 2-part Q&A about living, studying and working in Korea. There's quite a few questions, so I'm gonna just go right into it. So first question, a lot of you asked about tips of where to stay in Korea, what places to see in Korea, and I'm going to keep this really brief because I have done my vlogs before of my trips to Korea, so if you want to know where to visit, I will link all those vlogs below. In terms of places to stay, I highly recommend Airbnb. The Airbnb here are really nice and really well priced, and a lot of Airbnbs come with a Wi-Fi egg, which means you don't have to pay the additional cost at the airport to hire in Wi-Fi egg. There was a question about where am I living and what is this place essentially. Right now I am living on a off-campus dormitory. I am in a single dorm, which means there's only me in this room. This whole building has lots of other students who are also at SNU, so it is a student dormitory. It is about a 20-minute journey to uni from here, so it's not too far away, but it is a bit of a distance. I live alone. This is self-contained, so I do all the cleaning, all the washing, all the cooking. There is no, somebody asked about a housekeeper. There's no housekeeper, but upstairs there is a building owner. The building owner lives here, so they will fix any technical issues with your apartment with furnitures and electrical stuff, and if your toilet gets clogged up, things like that. But apart from that, all the cleaning, all the housework you do yourself, all the cooking you do yourself. And yes, it's an apartment, but this one doesn't have a lift. There are also shared dormitories off campus as well as shared dormitories on campus. All of this you can find on the website, which I will also link down below in the description box. And this is mainly for SNU, which is the university I currently go to. There was a question about what was the hardest thing about moving and what is it like living in a foreign country alone. To be honest, in terms of city life in Seoul, it's not too different to Sydney, so I thought the adjustment wasn't too hard. The pace of life here and the standard of living and all that is rather similar, so that wasn't too hard in terms of adjustment. Obviously the biggest thing, depending on your personality, would be loneliness, because obviously at home you'll have all your friends and family, and here you've got to make new friends and new family. So it totally depends on how you cope alone. Because I'm moving here, it wasn't too hard. I just bought my suitcase. I came alone. My parents didn't ever come with me in the process. My mom did visit me, but I did this very independently, and it was also my choice, so that's how it is. This was one that I was asked a lot. A lot of people wanted to know about discrimination and racism in Korea and how welcoming they are of foreigners. First of all, if you look anything other than Asian, they will stare at you. Especially like the auntie and uncle age and above, they will stare at you. I go out with my friends who are white. Often they will get stared at. I don't get stared at because I look like I'm one of them, but when I start speaking English, I do get stared at because they're like, whoa, the Asian chick speaks English. So they do stare. In terms of, a girl asked about, if you're Muslim and you wear a hijab. I have seen Muslim people here wearing the hijab, and even if you come to Australia, we can sometimes be not as welcoming. So I don't think they're particularly racist here, but they do stare and they do comment. But because it's in Korean, you won't really notice as much. But because this, Seoul is still quite a multicultural place, I would state, so it wouldn't necessarily be that weird to see someone. Although I know that with black people, they tend to be more fascinated. Like I was talking to one of my friends who had another friend who was a black girl who worked in a countryside in Seoul, in Korea, not in Seoul, and she said a lot of the older ajushis, ajumas and 할머니 and 할아버지 would go and touch her hair because to them that is such a foreign thing. So rather than discriminating, I'd say they're more fascinated. Personally, I haven't experienced discrimination only because I have the privilege of looking Asian, although I feel like because I look Asian, they're more disappointed when I can't speak Korean, because they don't expect the white people to speak Korean, but they expect the Asian looking person to speak Korean. And that's something that I've learned, that when I've traveled a lot to Asia and Asian countries, is that when you go to that Asian country, they expect you to be able to speak that kind of Asian language, if that makes sense. So like when I go to Japan, they expect that I'm Japanese and I can speak Japanese, but I'm not. Like I can't speak that. So that's where I experience the most kind of discrimination, where they're completely disappointed in the fact that I can't speak Korean, even though I look like I should be able to. But personally, I haven't received or experienced any discrimination or seen it. So, you know, that's just me. So somebody asked, why did I choose to come to Korea? And I know there's probably a lot of assumptions as to why I chose Korea, including from my friends and family. But actually, if you didn't know, I'm currently working here as an English teacher. And I finished my bachelor degree 2 years ago, which was not teaching. And I felt a huge slump in what I should do because I couldn't find a job with my last degree, and one of my options was to be a teacher, and unfortunately in Australia the laws are pretty strict with teaching, so I'd have to get a degree before I could enter a classroom, but because I didn't want to like half-heartedly pick another degree, I wanted to be able to go and work somewhere and get some work experience and get a feel of the classroom. So my choices were actually Japan or Korea, and I ended up with Korea because it was much easier to find a job here and the cost of living here is lower, and in the end it was just more accessible for me. So for me, coming here is all about gaining the experience as a teacher. So that's why I ended up coming to Korea. A lot of you asked about about the uni that I'm going to and other unis in Korea. I can only talk about SNU, so if you're interested in anything like Sogan or Yonsei, look it up on their website, send them an email, like chat to them directly. But what I can say is Sogan and Yonsei are private unis, so they are very, very pricey. I ended up picking SNU mainly because it was much cheaper, like a third of the price of Sogan and Yonsei, and it was very convenient. And I didn't know until I got in that it was actually quite a prestigious university. So yeah, but if you want to, you know, if you want to study in any other departments in SNU or Sogan or Yonsei, please send them an email, because I have no idea. Like people asking me about the School of Dentistry, about, you know, all these other schools. Look, if you want to go there and do a master's or do a bachelor or whatever, send them an email. Ask them if they have an international exchange program and do it through that. But honestly, I'm sorry, I have no idea, and I can't ask for you because I don't do your degree, so I don't know how to say that. The best way is they will always have an email, so please check their website and send them an email. Somebody asked how many languages I know and also some tips on learning Korean. I speak English and Chinese fluently. English is my second language, but is more so my first language than Chinese. Chinese I am proficient at speaking to an extent. I can read basic simplified Chinese, and I can write very basically. English I'm very confident in, so those are my two main languages. And yeah, so Korean's my third language. In terms of tips on learning Korean or just any language, I'd say just get your basics really solid. You know, get your alphabets really solid, get your grammar and all that really solid, and then from that point onward just practice a lot. You know, speak with a lot of Koreans, you know, watch some Korean dramas with the subtitles off and listen to the way they converse, because even though I'm learning from a textbook, when I talk to some of my Korean friends, they say that this is not very everyday Korean, so it's best to, you know, watch dramas, especially current dramas, and hear how they actually converse day to day. And yeah, and also everybody's learning style is different. You don't have to all learn through a book. Some people learn more visually, some people learn more through audio, so find what is the best way for you to learn something and, you know, do it that way. You don't have to buy the textbook your friend has if reading a book doesn't help you. So that would be my tip. How expensive is it to live in Korea, and does my income cover my cost of living? So I don't work full-time. If I did work full-time, it would definitely cover my cost of living, but because I study part-time and I work part-time, it doesn't quite cover my cost of living exactly. Compared to Sydney, it is much cheaper to live in Korea. The cost of living here is definitely lower than Australia. Yeah, but there's always ways to reduce the cost of things. You know, you can like because it's only a 20-minute walk from school to here. Instead of catching the bus, sometimes I'll walk to school. You know, you can eat cheaper meals, or like I make curry in bulk and separate it so I can eat it through multiple meals. There are lots of ways to save money, so I wouldn't say it's too expensive to live here. Okay, what is the best thing I like about living in Korea, and what do I miss the most back home? The best thing about living in Korea is just that everything here is really convenient. Like, transport works really well. If I want certain things, it's readily accessible here. In Australia, you know, transport's always late. Everything's really far away from each other. I just feel like Korea as a whole works more efficiently on so many different bases, and food here is so much cheaper. I really love Korean food, so probably the best thing is just how cheap Korean food is and how readily available any sort of Korean food is. So yeah, that's the bomb. What do I miss most from back home? I actually miss my pets the most. I'm such an animal person. If you didn't know, my degree was actually a vet degree. So I really miss my pets and friends and family the most. I also miss my car. I've been driving for many years, so to suddenly go from driving like everywhere to taking public transport every day, I do miss the convenience of a car. But with that said, the transport system here is so efficient. Like, I miss my car mainly just because I like being in a car and playing music loud and singing, not because the transport system here is crap. And what are the cultural differences between Australia and Korea? Was it hard for me to adjust to a new culture? Generally speaking, not so much. I don't feel like there is any huge cultural differences here. The main cultural difference here is Korea has like a huge honor system where you have to be really honorable to your elders and to, you know, just people who are 1 or 2 years older than you. But because I am not fully Korean, that hasn't really come into play as much. And also a lot of people I've met, I'm the only, so I'm the older one. So fortunately I haven't had to talk up to anybody, and also the friends that I've made that are older than me that are Korean, I work with at work, so they're also not too strict on that. But that would be the biggest difference, I would say. But personally, I haven't encountered anything like that. Befriending Koreans, making friends with Koreans. Okay, I am going to say this as a generalization. It is very hard to make Korean friends if you do not know a Korean friend already. Koreans tend to be pretty like tight-knit circles of friends, which is really great because it means that they're all really tight, but it also means it's really hard to get into. And unfortunately, Koreans aren't that welcoming of foreigners into their group unless there is some sort of connection, like you know each other through a dance class or whatever, stuff like that. So it's a bit hard to break into an already formed Korean friendship group. Then again, it's not impossible, but you know, you've got to find some sort of way in. But then definitely not the type to kind of approach you and befriend you without a purpose. Like, often, you know, they'll want to have a foreigner in their group to learn English, stuff like that. But personally, I haven't experienced it. I don't actually have any Korean friends here that aren't through work or through something else, so I don't really know. Someone asked about enlistment. Please Google it. I don't quite understand it either, but I know that once you're 18, you get a letter which tells you you must enlist, and 98% of the Korean men do military service. The 2% that don't have some sort of physical, mental disability that stops them from going, and they have to serve for 2 years. But yeah, that's all I know. Please Google it yourself. I really do not know anything about enlistment. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna end on this one. Any advice for those who want to move to Korea? First advice is don't move to Korea because you love K-pop, and don't move to Korea with the goal to chase K-pop, because I don't know, if that's the only reason you want to be here, it's gonna be pretty tough. Like, chasing K-pop stars here is a full-time job for most people, and you need a lot of money, you need a lot of time, and if that's the only reason you're coming here, then you better save up a ton of money and be ready to literally fork out your life night and day. Really come to Korea because you love the culture and you want to learn about Korea, or you want to, like for me, gain some experiences here. Because if you're just coming here to see K-pop stars, you'll be really disappointed because it is not as easy as you think. Ticketing here is pretty horrendous, and getting into fan signs is pretty impossible. So you know, I really encourage you, although I don't judge you if you come for this reason, but I'd encourage you not to come here if your pure reason is to chase K-pop stars, because you might be disappointed and you might end up being in a lot of debt and you might end up just not enjoying your time here. Second of all, if you want to move to Korea, make sure you do have it all planned out, like you know what you're going to do in terms of work, in terms of living, in terms of studying, whatever area it is. Just plan that ahead, make sure you have a solid plan, and yeah, definitely save up. I had a question about how much I saved, and I didn't save up that much because I knew I was working here, so I knew that I could make up for anything that I didn't have. But if you're not going to work here, definitely save up a huge, I would say, like, depending on how long you want to be here and to be safe, I would save up a few thousand, definitely. And number three, I guess this is something that, you know, I've been told since high school. Ask a lot of questions. You know, if you're applying for a job, ask them plenty of questions so you clearly know what you're getting yourself into. If you're going to a uni, ask them plenty of questions of what is expected of you, what are you learning, what are the textbooks, blah blah blah, so you understand. If you're moving into a dormitory, ask about the address, about the rules, what you can and cannot bring. Just ask lots of questions so you're clear on what you're getting yourself into. Those would be my three main advice. This is obviously my personal opinion. It is not a general opinion. I've only been living in Korea for about 3 months now, so I am still quite new to this, but even prior to coming to Korea, I had done a whole heap of research. Essentially all of last year was me researching which country I should go to this year. I'd advise you to do a lot of research too, and yeah, if you do come here and I'm still here, feel free to say hi, send me a tweet on Twitter. I will try and meet up with you. Thank you for watching this one. I will try and make sure that it's not too long. Thank you for everybody who sent in questions. The next Q&A video I make will be about working in Korea. So again, I'll link the form down below if you have any questions about that. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed this video and it was helpful. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. I made my bed just for you because